Hey everybody, Dr. Dane Happany here, physical therapist with Healing Motion PT, and I just wanted to come at you with some tips on how to choose the right shoe for you. So there's tons of really opposite ends of the pendulum on this, right? You need this motion control shoe and orthotic to control, or no, you need this minimalist shoe. So today we're gonna kind of debunk these myths, and the answer is it depends. So some of you may need more control, some of you may need less. And feel free, if you're watching live, to ask any questions along the way and I can answer them. So first and foremost, just a little foot anatomy. So what's the point? Well, the point is to move you from one place to the other and allow you to stand and be able to do the things you need to in everyday life. And so looking at foot structure, we've got our foot right here. So the idea of the foot would be that it is wider at the forefoot, narrower at the base, and so we should have a shoe that fits that and mimics that. And so with that, we should be able to splay our toes wide. Sometimes what will happen is people's toe will get stuck in and kind of create what we call a hallux valgus or a bunion, and footwear usually drives that, as well as some foot weakness. So with that, you can either have, our foot has an arch, and so you can either have a high arch, middle arch, or a flat arch. And so arch type is important, but the cool part is that we do have muscles that can control that. And so if you have a higher arch, sometimes you tend to be a little more kind of shock loading, and so you might need a shoe with a little more cushion to help you with that. Or you can improve a little bit of your foot mobility and your ankle mobility, and then your shoe doesn't have to do as much. If you have a neutral arch, perfect, that's like great middle of the road. If you have a flatter arch, you can actually use your muscles to raise your arch. And so really ultimately what happens is what we've done is we've created, hey Crystal, how's it going? We've created shoes to kind of do the work for us. And the problem with that is really, when it comes to anything in life, it is use it or lose it, okay? And so the problem is that if we have our shoes do all of the work for us, then the shoes do the work and we lose it. Hey Bob, how's it going? So with that, it's the analogy I'll use is a math equation, right? When you're doing math. So how do you learn to do math? You practice, right? How does our foot learn to control itself? It practices. And so the idea is, just like with math, you would practice. Now with math, are you gonna get better at being able to physically do math if you practice the arithmetic on your own, or if you use a calculator every time? If you practice the math on your own. If you always rely on a calculator, you will always rely on a calculator. And the more challenging the math gets, the more you've had to rely on the calculator, the more there's no way you're not gonna need the calculator. So that's kind of the motion control shoes and the orthotics, is that if you always use them, you will always need them. Hey Julie, so that is, hey Kirsten, so that's a problem, that if you get to this level of high level math and you've always used a calculator, good luck not using a calculator. So if you've always used shoes with orthotics and motion control, good luck not. And so with that, the thing is that if you don't know how to do math without the calculator, well then use the calculator initially. So use the motion control, use the orthotic, but the goal would be to slowly wean off of that, just like you would wean off your calculator and learn to do more math just kind of in your head with usual arithmetic, right? But the answer is it depends. If you've never done it on your own, you've always used the calculator, you need some calculator help, and then to kind of go from there. So getting to the shoe front of things, we kind of have three classifications of shoes. So we have minimalist, and so I'm gonna start with minimalist, and I'm gonna start with running shoes, and then we'll go more towards work shoes. So minimalist is number one, okay? So we have here on our running shoes, this is a Vibram sole. It's kind of like the five-finger toe soles, but it's a regular shoe. And so with that, there is like absolutely zero support here, right? So my foot is doing all the work, which is great. My foot is gonna use it, and so it's gonna get stronger. Now with that, if I don't know how to do the math without a calculator, I might be in trouble. I need someone like a physical therapist to teach me how to use my arch muscles, and then I can do it. Just like you would need a math teacher or tutor to initially teach you how to do the math, and then you learn to do it on your own. So that'd be the minimalist. The cool part about this, super wide toe box, and that way it allows my feet to splay and work the way they normally should. So then the second shoe would be stability or neutral shoe. Stability or neutral. So that's kind of middle of the ground, not a ton of support. So that would be this Ultra shoe, okay? So not a ton of support. Again, can fold it, but not as flexible as the other. And not a ton of arch control, but definitely more than this. That thing really twists a little bit more. And then a step up would be this Brooks shoe that I have, the Pure Flow. So also can fold. The difference is this definitely has a little more padding. It doesn't have as wide of a toe box, so it could kind of scrunch my toes a little bit. It doesn't allow my shoe to, or my foot to, it does a little more of the work for my foot. But it does offer a little more padding. So my own personal experience, these are all shoes I run in. This is good for shorter distances and trail that's softer dirt. If I go on more gravel or bigger rocks, I run into problems sometimes. I've had a few week bruise on my forefoot from hitting the wrong rock in this. And your foot could be as strong as possible. If you're wearing this and you hit the wrong thing, that's tough. So with that, I actually didn't bring them. I have my Ultra Trail shoes that are like this, except they have a much thicker base. So they still don't give me a ton of support, but they have a much thicker base to kind of create impact loading to take the force away. So that's good for the bigger rocks, okay? And then this shoe, when my foot's tired from running in more minimalist shoes, this shoe gives me a little bit more support, okay? So the third shoe though would be motion control. And so motion control shoe is the big ones like the Brooks Beast and all of those. And then also if you're adding an orthotic to your shoe, that would give you more motion control. So this shoe here is more of a motion control shoe. You can see that it doesn't fold up on its own. It has a bigger heel lift and it doesn't twist on itself. And there's even some with some plastic mixed in here that give you even more support. So if you don't know how to control your foot on your own or do the math, this is maybe a good starting point. Work with your PT or check out our YouTube playlist with our foot arch strengthening exercises and awareness exercises, and you can build to be able to do this. So you gotta start with your foot of where it's at or the math of where you're at, okay? So that's for kind of like running and walking shoes. Then for dress shoes. So for dress shoes, I actually use myself shoes like this. So my thought process is when I'm working, I'm not like running, I'm not on hard surfaces, I'm not always standing. So may as well use shoes that make my feet work. And so they're actually learning to work without the shoe support, like on their own, which is awesome. And so what a great opportunity if I'm not ready to run yet in something like this. I can work in something like this and then run in something like this and work my way to running in something like this and eventually like this. Now you can go with a little more support with your work shoes like this. So this gives me a little more support but still has some flexibility. And so sometimes I'll wear this to give my foot a break when it feels tired or sore from less of a shoe. And then lastly, kind of for female, so the tendency for female shoes is sometimes they're more narrow in the toe box, and so again that can run your foot into some problems. Your foot muscles are working with this, but not enough room. So ideally having something with a little wider toe box would be good. And then if you need a little more support, there are some shoes with a little more support, as you can see. So that's kind of the basics on footwear selection. So to kind of summarize, your foot muscles are your own orthotics. It's a use it or lose it mentality. So if you don't use them and you rely on your shoe, you're gonna lose it, and you're always gonna rely on more support. If you can use it, then just like being able to do math without a calculator, you can walk and run and work with a lot less support. You're gonna be stronger as a result and ultimately have better foot health. But if you try to go to that less support or that non-calculator work too soon, you're gonna be out of luck. and so you're gonna end up eventually needing more and more support, and then potentially having pain. So with that, if you need more tips, feel free to comment on this on Facebook or on YouTube. Feel free to always just comment and ask us. Feel free to call our office and ask to speak to one of us to give you some tips, and we are happy to help. And ultimately, if you've been having some foot pain or ankle pain or anything related to your foot and ankle, we are happy to help, not just with shoes, but the whole thing we didn't even touch on would be like exercises to strengthen and better control and to specify this to you. So hope that helps with your footwear selection. The answer is not necessarily motion control, not necessarily minimalist, and not necessarily stability in the middle, but finding what works for you and hopefully working towards more space for your feet and less support so that you can use your muscles and get stronger over time. So appreciate y'all for watching. Have a great one. Hopefully that helps you with some footwear selection. If you're looking for a place in Corvallis, 5 Star Sports has an awesome selection, locally owned, great people, and so what a great place to go and try to find some good footwear for walking, running, and all the trails. So appreciate y'all, and we'll talk to you soon.